Now, this is a difficult conversation to have with you. And let me tell you why. Because as a mother, I say to myself, God forbid I have a child. Maybe my child's name is Jane. And she tells me John raped her. As a mother, would I say, okay, my daughter Jane, let us catch this John in the act. So I want you, Jane, my darling daughter, I want you to go into the living room. I will invite the perpetrator to come. Would I put my daughter through that to face her perpetrator? Not just that, once again, because you see my child and I say, okay, you are there. And I'm bringing the perpetrator not just to see you, he now begins to touch you. As a mother, would I stand for that to my child? A second time, a child who I know has been traumatized 7 years ago. That is what I am seeing as a mother. Even if it's for one touch, would I want my daughter to go through that again? So I want to come to you, Mr. Akinlami, on this. How should we, in this situation, have handled it when there's a child involved? Because seeing a child facing her perpetrator, not only that, following her to the kitchen, she's already traumatized. 7 whole years have gone by. She's had these emotions locked in. And you're bringing it back into her face. What could have been the right step to take?
Well, let me first say that when we talk about statute bad, a matter being statute bad or not, it is important that we pay attention to the law we are referring to. When it comes to children, the fundamental law is not the criminal code. The fundamental law is the Child Rights Act or the Child Rights Law. And I'm not aware that when you talk about the case of deferment, under the Child Rights Act, you have to report it within 2 months. That is something we need to investigate under the Child Rights. Because when it comes to crime against children, it's investigated by specialized police units created under the Child Rights Act and under the Child Rights Law of Lagos State. That matter had happened in Lagos State in the Child Rights Act has been in the Child Rights Law of Lagos State has been in existence since 2007. Yeah. And if it happened when the child was 7 years old, then I think that the matter can be investigated. Having cleared that, I think the issue here is that a few years ago we had a matter. I was the Secretary of Child Protection Network, Lagos State. And we had this matter of a child that was allegedly raped, allegedly defiled. And we approached the police. As at that time, the mother had bathed for the child and had washed her dress and all of that, pants and all of that. So when we got to the police in Surulere, the police made a statement and said, you guys have destroyed the evidence. You know what you're going to do? You're going to come take them back. You're going to come hide. You're going to come wait if you go do them again. Once you do them again, I'm going to go catch them and bring them. And I said, police, are you saying this to us? Does this make sense to you? That we should take the child through the process again to get the child raped so that you can establish evidence? Which is more important, the sanity of the mind of the child, the sanctity and the dignity of human person of the child that was subjected to wounds by virtue of that experience? And report has shown, statistics have shown, 94% of the time, when children allege molestation, they are right. That's global statistics. Yes. Because children hardly cook up the idea that they were molested or they were defiled. And it is important to understand that children have sense of judgment. To know when a look is not appropriate, to know when a touch is not appropriate, to know when a relationship is becoming abusive and funny. And they have intuition to say, Mommy, a touch might not have happened. Say, Mommy, I think something is wrong. Now, that was the police saying so. Now, to now think that a guardian is now thinking in that direction. Now, I don't want to crucify the guardian. I want to think that the guardian is ignorant of the implication of doing that to the child. Because when you lock up the child for 30 minutes, a child just heard the voice. See, a child was raped, defiled. A child was raped or defiled. Are you getting it? And policemen were invited into the matter. So now this child did not know who perpetrated the act. So there was this guy who came to their community to say he was teaching them taekwondo on self-defense in case they faced any abuse. Immediately, so the police invited the guy to say, come and listen to this child, and we want you to help her. Immediately the guy came and spoke. And the child stood up, 8-year-old, and said, Mommy, we need to be going now. We need to be going. The mother said, no, where are we going? We are here. He said, Mommy, we need to be going. Immediately she stood up, they looked at where she sat. She has urinated there.
Yeah.
And the police said, there's something about this man. Because that child heard that voice of that man in pain.
Her body changed.
And that pain came back. Immediately that man spoke. That is the kind of trauma children go through when they experience child sexual abuse.
Let me pause you for a second. We're going to go on a break. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. So, before the break, Nima had a question. Go ahead, please.
So, according to you, the Child Rights Act is there to rely on, but it only spells out what, defilement of a child is, and once it is proven what kind of punishment will be given. So we still have to rely on other laws. You can't take the Child Rights Act in isolation in prosecution. You have to rely on the Evidence Act and some other acts. So we still might fall back to the limitation that we have of 2 months of getting this evidence. Now, I wanted you to talk about, in your experience as, someone, secretary of the organization that you head, have you ever seen a miscarriage of justice where a child is made to implicate somebody that is innocent before? And, if this ever happened, how often did you see it?
Well, a child to be made to implicate someone, that is a heavy conversation to have, because there are other intricacies. It will mean that maybe somebody wants to mess up somebody's life and ask the child to act out something. If the person does not touch the child, nothing will happen. Now, if for example, Baba Ijesha came back and nothing happens, he just sat there and he just had a conversation with the child, the story may be different. But you see, I don't want us to use the word implicating someone. It is about the fact that, it is not also about the fact that the matter has happened before. It's about the fact that the guardian of this child committed a honest error, which is the fact that you are subjecting the child to a process again that the child alleged she went through 7 years ago. If you listen to Princess spoke about the fact that this child became traumatized. This child saw this guy on TV on a show that she did with him, and the child was fidgeting and was not comfortable looking at him. Finally, the child told them this is what has happened. I think they should have taken it on the face of it and approach the police and see the best they can make in the circumstance. But subjecting the child to the process of going through the process again. Now, in law, as a matter of fact, they are assessing before the fact. They are assessing before the fact. If we are going to charge this matter, the guardian will be charged. The Baba Ijesha will be charged. Because in law, there are three offenders.
Let me finish.
There are three offenders here. Now, there are three offenders when a child is molested. Now, the first one is the person who has the duty of care to protect the child. Now, note, the person does not even need to set up a scene. The person just needs to drop the ball, and there's negligence in providing protection for the child. The person has a case to answer because the child does not take care of himself or herself, and the child is anybody below 18.
Yes.
Then the person actually committed the offense. Then, particularly in Lagos State, if you are aware that a child has been abused and you keep quiet, by the executive order, sexual offenses executive order that has been in existence since under Governor Fashola, you go to prison for 2 months for failing to report that a child has been abused. So we cannot shy away from the sequence. We empathize with the state of affairs. But the truth of the matter is that at the end of the day, that child is in a worse place.
Right. Yes, Mariam, go ahead.
So now, I've heard about the statute of limitation. And I'm saying when it comes to a child that has been raped, has been defiled, and you're saying that and most children are unable to speak about the defilement until they are old enough and mature enough to speak about it, and you put a statute of limitation on a defilement, it makes no sense to me. It shows that the law is flawed. And so my problem right now is when it comes to pedophilia in our country, the way we handle it, is it a matter of the law, the flawed law, or is there something also in our culture, in the way we look at these things, that makes it so hard to prosecute people like that and call them out? And I say this because people are asking that, yes, he has committed this offense and he has to go to court. But we've seen abroad that when they feel that they will still be a danger to society, they still find a way to leave them in jail or something so that they don't have access to children anymore.
So this is the position of the law. So the legal system we inherited says that it is better for 100 offenders to go free than for one innocent person to be kept and prosecuted. So this is the position. Baba Ijesha as of today, even when you saw the man who killed George Floyd, he was found there, killing him 9 minutes 29 seconds. He was innocent until proven guilty. They still had to prove that it was that meaning that killed George Floyd. You know, you watch the proceedings. So for me, Baba Ijesha might have confessed, as the lawyer said. People start a proceeding and say, "I'm guilty." In the course of the proceeding, they say, "I'm no more guilty." The court will record it because evidence is until you prove. The person who has been accused has nothing to defend. If you finish reading your case and the person feels you have not made any case, you just say, "I rest my case on the case of the prosecution," and that will be it. So for me, as of today, the offense that has been alleged, upon which he was arrested, which is the second offense, because we need to be looking at that one, is a bailable offense. Unfortunately, the Constitution says you charge somebody between 24 hours, where the court is far, or 48 hours. Now, Jusun are on strike. They are not able to charge him before any court. So the police is caught between two opinions. Do we continue to keep him and risk a constitutional lawyer coming to meet us and say you are breaching his fundamental human right? Or do we release him? Unfortunately, they are between the devil and the deep sea, and they have to take a position. I think that's the position, the police has taken.
With everything that's happening right now, I just have a feeling that the victim is abandoned. Nobody's really talking about how to help her, her mental health. And so I want to ask you, what are some of the things that the guardians and people around can be doing for this girl now to protect her sanity?
We need to focus on the girl. One beautiful thing that the guardians have done in this matter is to refuse to reveal the identity of the child. That is beautiful. The child, particularly the rule of reporting, according to UNICEF, is that when a child is involved, particularly child sexual abuse, you don't reveal the identity of the child, not even the name. They've done that, that's okay. There are institutions in Lagos State that are being in place and are reputed, are able to help children. The leading one is Mirabel Center. Mirabel Center provide support, psychosocial support, medical support. I think conversation should be going on right now on how to get that girl, to Mirabel Center so that they can examine her medically and begin to look at look at the extent of the damage that has been done and how we begin to counsel the child and provide psychosocial support.
You see, this whole thing, there's multiple emotions that go through my mind because I am happy that the way the news have come out because a young girl who is being defiled right now sees the attention this issue is getting and realizes that, okay, I can speak up. Yes. So that's the good part.
Good.
But also, how do we ensure that this is a society that seems to be against protecting a child like this? How do we begin to turn this around for good? Because we have seen the situation, and I'm happy that I want us to remember where we show focus on the child, on the victim. So how can we turn this around to benefit everybody on all sides?
Okay, for me, number one, we have been told not to refer to children as victims because they say the word victim further stigmatizes them. So we call them affected persons, affected child, affected persons. Because when the child is hearing victim, 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 it again tells the child that I'm a victim, I'm disadvantaged, I'm messed up. So having said that, I think the way we can turn it around is to pick a lesson from here.
Okay.
We need to focus on our children. There's no reason that you should leave a stranger with your child. Because Sisa was actually molested when I was 6 years old. And it was serious for 2 years. I experienced that. Now, if you give me pen and paper today, and you ask me to draw the picture of that woman, I know I can draw a picture. I still remember how she looks. I'm 51 years old. That happened to me how many years ago?
Wow.
I remember the size of her body, everything, the size of her breast. I'm sorry to say, I remember everything as I'm sitting down here. It's been a journey for me dealing with that. So that is why my greatest inspiration for campaigning against child sexual abuse is my story, because I know what I go through. My default was messed up because my innocence was damaged before I knew what innocence was. So because my default was programmed to be wrong, almost anal sex, I've had it. Think about any sexual perversion in the world, apart from sleeping with animal and incest. I think I've tried it. And before I became a Christian in 1997, I started a journey of healing. And I can tell you it's still a journey. So because we know the rot, the implication, we want men. What do? Don't leave your child with a stranger. Put in place measures to ensure your children are... And who is a stranger, if I may define? In the words of Olakule Shoyin, it says, a stranger is anybody you cannot vouch for. Anybody you cannot... It may be your father. It may be your husband. It may be your wife. It may be your uncle. It may be your grandfather. All of these people that I've mentioned, all of those people in that category, they've abused children before. Yes. It may be a community leader. It may be a governor. It may be a president. It may be a media person. Anybody you cannot vouch for, whose character you do not know, you do not leave your child for.
Oh. Unfortunately, that's all we can take. Thank you so much.
It's really unfortunately that's all we can take.
I really wanted us to continue this conversation, but we cannot continue this conversation. We have to wrap up.
And thank you for just opening up about
it. I can steal you 1 minute. We need to take tweets, ladies of your view.
We'll take it.
All right, let's go on a break because we have to wrap up. I think we need to. I'm happy that this conversation is going because, hey, one of the things, I think, was it Taiwo Akinlami or somebody, see, I like that celebrities came up to talk. Because the truth is that there are a lot of young girls in this situation and they keep me quiet. So this whole scenario has helped people understand this is an important thing we must speak against.
That's one. Two, I'm also happy that there's a man here speaking with us because usually this sort of issues, when it happens, it almost ends up being women trying to instigate something against men. So it's good to see a man to be a forefront about it.
Real fast. We need to pay attention to that.
All right, let's go on a break. That's all we can take. Thank you very much, sir, again for joining us. When we come back, we'll bring in our celebrity guest. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your view will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. So before we bring in our special guest or introduce our special guest, we have the Honorable Victor Akonde, who is the Chairman, House Committee on Judiciary. He wants to help us clarify the Lagos State Criminal Code and the Child Rights Act. Good morning, sir. Are you there?
Good morning.
Yes, thank you. So we need some clarity on that. Which one prevails in Lagos State?
Both.
Okay.
Both prevails. And a situation where somebody committed a crime 7 years ago and is owing up after 7 years that he committed that crime, there is nowhere or no way that it is statute barred that it cannot be prosecuted. But the only thing is that all the elements of the commission of that crime must be present.
Okay.
There must be a doctor report. But in a situation where he wanted to repeat the same thing that happened 7 years ago, definitely he has affirmed to the fact that he committed that crime 7 years ago.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, that's good to know. So that means that this is something that,
build on his confession to get out exactly what happened 7 years ago, sir, right?
Yes.
Oh,
and that should be the job of the police.
That is the job of the police to conclude their investigation and forward same.
Okay. So that's good to know. So the only issue now that he's out on bail, but the truth is that he can't actually be prosecuted based on the evidence at hand. And I'm happy you've helped us to clarify that. Right?
He can't be prosecuted because he has already confirmed that he did that act.
Oh, fantastic.
That happened 7 years ago.
Thank you. We need that clarity. Thank you very much. Let me let you go at this time. That's good to know.